Good morning, all, and welcome to the next episode of Only BFSI. So, those who have joined first time, I'll just quickly introduce. Only BFSI is an initiative of BFSI Tech Circle. It's a curated community for the people like-minded us, where we are trying to understand more the BFSI industry, which is one of the leading BFSI industry when it comes to all tech buying and selling. So this community is specifically for all the founders, tech leaders, GTM sellers, where every episode we bring in the BFSI leader, either from the buyer or the seller side, and just to understand what is currently happening in the market, trends, initiative, challenges, and specifically what, why, and how we are buying today. So today I have a very special guest, Abhishek Mody, who is the vice president at one of the India's largest private banks. He has 18 years of experience where he had held very key positions, and I would say on the both side, from the banker side also, and from the IT side also, where he has uh, contributed more from the digital banking, payments, API banking, fintech partnerships, and my favorite, product strategy. So, Abhishek, welcome
Rajiv.
to our episode,
Thank you.
and
Thank you for good morning.
thank you very much for joining us today. And I one more time, I would like to thank you because having your personal emergency, you just
Yeah,
made the commitment. Really, really appreciate you for that.
no, no, thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be on the forum, and thank you both Piyush ji and Sandeep ji for inviting me. Great to be amongst August, audience and panel. Let's start.
So, Abhishek ji, this is my, first question. Typically, I ask all the leaders who come on board. So, when it comes to large bank perspective, uh, what makes a fintech vendor or a service provider uh, immediately a credible one?
Sure. So, Piyush ji, it's a great question. So let me try and kind of answer that. And basis my last many years experience, I've come across a whole plethora of fintech startups.
Mhm.
Now, while they, each of them, or most of them, are very, very well entrenched, well carved out in from a product proposition. But some common, common issues or common concerns that I see personally, this is my individual opinion, is that the first is that they are not as regulatory fluent as as expected by the RBI or SEBIs of the world. मतलब क्या है कि fintech startups they come with that very flexible, very fluid mindset, which is great. But when it comes to financial entities, fiduciaries, banks, NBFCs, giants, they are obviously regulated entities. They are REs. They work under a very strict, very leak-proof governance framework, under which not just them, but in their partners have to comply and be very, very compliant. So क्या होता है कि most fintechs, I'm not making any assumptions, any kind of specific,
Yes.
link to anybody, but most fintechs are not very fluent on the regulatory side of things, though that is changing. It's a very welcoming thing. पहले आज से 4-5 साल पहले, 6 years ago, I used to notice, especially before COVID, that many fintechs were, kind of lackadaisical as far as regulatory concerns, regulatory rules, and processes are concerned, audit is concerned, compliance is concerned. वो अभी इतना नहीं है. It's still there. The gap is still visible, but it's closing. They're getting more and more regulatory, educated, more and more regulatory aware. What is rules? What are key compliance norms? As far as banks are concerned, talking more from a banker's standpoint. And fintechs are now getting more and more, investing more of their energies and resource bandwidth towards getting their own people on board, very regulatory savvy. So उसमें सबसे बड़ा challenge वो लोग क्या करें कि overcome this regulatory challenge from an understanding, from a compliance, from a translation standpoint. They're hiring experts in the regulatory space on their papers. So that's one. The next point I see again from individual is that many fintechs they have a very generic, they tend to have very generic, product proposition. We are
Okay.
we are just a payment, we are payment fintech, but the आपका कहने क्या चाहते थे? Are you just a payment fintech or you
Yeah.
have something specific to offer? While we as a banker, we as a financial professional, BFSI professionals, you'll have to see a little more drill down as far as specifics are concerned from a product propositioning and positioning standpoint. Whether it is a payment product, whether it is a specific, credit product, credit tech product, or whether it is a wealth tech product, your proposition, your positioning has to be very, very clear and crisp. So that would give the comfort to not just the bankers, but also the regulators and the governance board. Okay, this particular fintech that we are trying to work with, or we are intending to work with, is very clear in what they are offering to the table. And third is most important for from a bankers, from a financial entity standpoint, is there should be a very strong founder partnership. So the fintech offer करिए, they should be having the product, their solutions should be very, very clear and fitting the core organizational objective as far as the partner bank or the partner NBFC is concerned. This basically means that the organizational objectives need to be better from a strategic standpoint and not just tactical. So yeah, these are a couple of points, but I feel it's very important for text to be aware of today's day and age.
But Abhishek, what I have, seen or typically a lot of founders, approach me. So, founders typically they are techies and they have their own
Okay.
experiences. Maybe sometimes founders have the deep domain expertise. They build product, or let's say they come up with a service,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden they understand, okay, yeah, sometimes they even don't understand what is the compliance to think about it. So when you see actually some of these founders coming to you, do you guys, I mean, the bankers typically help them to, navigate that path where how they can be compliance friendly, or straight away,
Absolutely.
straight away it's on hold or it's rejected? How is it?
So I'll speak from my experience, and this is kind of from a large understanding standpoint.
Hmm.
So the first key pain point for any banker is
Hmm.
that fintech, like I mentioned, has to be compliance and governance friendly and ready.
Okay.
You can't have a
Okay.
product which is outside the regulatory norms and then say,
Hmm.
यही है मेरे पास चाहिए तो लो. I can't have that attitude. Second is it is the interest of the banker or the bank itself to have a fintech partner who's not
Hmm.
just a compliance and governance ready, but also ready from a tech stack perspective. Many banks still did, and from my own experience standpoint,
Hmm.
kind of have a legacy platform systems. So the fintechs are still more new age. They use kind of new age tech product tech solutions like Flutter, for example, which is
Hmm.
still relevant to the more still contemporary in today's day and age. Banks who use legacy tech stacks, tech platforms may not necessarily be able to marry the code from a partnership standpoint. Very important to get a tech assessment correctly done. In addition to the compliance and the governance assessment, that these two areas are very, very clearly sorted out. बाद में क्या होता है कि जब इंटीग्रेशन स्टार्ट होता है इम्प्लीमेंटेशन स्टार्ट होता है
Hmm.
we as a banker come to know कि अरे इन लोग का tech stack हमसे अलग है, we may not be able to mesh the codes very well. This will lead
Hmm.
to compliance issues, this will lead to VAPT, this will lead to audit issues, this will lead to final delivery issues, and then that goes to rework on the drawing board. That's something we want to avoid as a very unpleasant discussion.
But
Getting your
even, sorry, continue.
please,
So I was just asking, this is even true when you do the POCs, or typically this, becomes a very blocker when actually it goes to the deployment.
so even doing whether POC, CUG, or whether doing a full scale live deployment, the
Correct.
rules of the game are the same. आपका खाली scale छोटा है बड़ा है. POC में आप क्या करो कि you're just focusing on one problem statement, but still the stakeholder that you need to get the clearance on from a delivery standpoint, from a deployment standpoint, are the same guys. आपका खाली जो turnaround time है वो कम हो जाता है. But you have to cross the same hops again and again. Compliance, audit, governance, IT assessment, ISG, PIA, business impact, got all those guys. तो वो आपको जब तक क्लियर नहीं करोगे तब तक आप उसमें आप एज इन द फिनटेक यू शुड नॉट बी वेरी hands on with the bank's norm. You cannot do a very smooth POC. और POC में भी क्या है कि we can take a certain amount of exceptions, but we can't
Correct.
take exceptions all the time. You need to have
Hmm.
basic, tech and like I mean, tech and the governance, marriage very, very smooth. So you can proceed with it. Product is just a part of that. Product, I appreciate the product. I'm a product person myself. I respect the product from a monetization, from a rapperization standpoint. जब तक ये nuts and bolts clear नहीं होंगे आपके लिए, this is I've learned through some hard, some hard experiences. It's difficult to get the delivery in the end.
Fair. So, so if we think about today, and so let's say if we talk about the API banking,
Yes.
uh, where do you see the biggest opportunities for these fintech vendors or new players?
Great question. Mr. Bhamre, actually क्या है कि इसमें there are a couple of bullet points which I've been noticing last 4-5 साल की मैं बात कर सकता हूँ, say for last 5
Mm-hmm,
years.
mm-hmm,
The first opportunity where fintechs and banks can be equal beneficiaries
mm-hmm.
would be the account aggregator based underwriting. Because still in most banks, in many banks, not talking specific to any bank, the underwriting process, the risk assessment process, the final limit assessment process is still manually driven, is still manually dependent. It's getting automated
Okay.
to an extent,
Mm-hmm,
but thankfully, the government of India, the account aggregator roles, account aggregator as a data lake is helping fintechs to be more digitally savvy. That's first. That's the most important thing. Second is the thin file plans, the TFCs or the NTCs, are a major about 30% of the population is still NTC in this country, 25 to 30%. So account aggregators help to build a certain credibility as far as underwriting is concerned for this specific segment.
mm-hmm.
And folks between an age group between 18 to 25, between 18 से 25 के बीच में, the college students or the first timers getting into the corporate world are thin
Mm-hmm.
file customers. So this is a major area where banks and fintechs together need to focus and get the ball rolling. Second is what I feel is the embedded credit or the embedded, the BaaS distribution. That's banking as a service. These are, as everyone knows, BaaS is banking as a service, which is those embedded products from a payments, from a wealth, credit, lending. You got the insurance. You got those various artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
This is an area where BaaS-based products, BaaS-based use cases see a tremendous potential participation for fintechs. The
Mm-hmm.
third obviously is the cross-border remittances. And as you know, India,
Very true.
thanks to UPI and RuPay, integrations, with the efforts obviously of Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi, and thanks to his certain marketing skill set.
Mm-hmm.
UAE, Singapore, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, France, Mauritius, UK are broadly on the payment payrolls or payment railroads as far as RuPay and UPI is concerned, which is a
Okay.
huge across. At least I can talk for UAE from an example standpoint. Broadly, about $75 billion is the annual remittance market. Mota moti, as far as
My
the
God.
UAE to India leg is concerned, this is my best estimates. And last time I checked, you can
Mm-hmm.
imagine the potential as far as the other markets are concerned. Whether like I mentioned, Singapore or you got UAE, US, UK, that market, Australia. So the cross-border remittance, the cross-border risk assessment, cross-border underwriting for that matter, and the cross-border wealth stacks is something where a lot of fintechs could be focusing on. These are actually on export segments. I frankly don't see a lot of fintechs looking at this area. Where I see a lot of over participation, over representation is the payment stacks, which is good. That is the first part of your revolution, the so-called payments revolution. Payment is called credit. वो भी इसमें भी काफी भी there's a lot of players in that. Now we as a company, we as a country rather, we need to be more diversifying focused. Remittance, underwriting, risk, wealth. Wealth story is one of the most underrated in the world, rather in India. There's a lot of potential.
True.
At least about 5 to
True.
6, 5 to 7x. अभी जो काम कर रहे हैं उसमें आप और बढ़ा सकते हैं. इसमें अगर probably the government could think. These are my 2 cents on this. And the
Okay.
last is the last point rather I like to make is more from a tokenization standpoint, because tokens are one of the most new age things, whether it's payment tokens, whether it's merchant tokens, CBDCs. This is where fintechs, this is where startups can be focusing more from a financial disruption standpoint and bring a whole revolution as far as customer experience is concerned, customer onboarding is concerned, and obviously the data story. All these 3, 4 bullet points is huge. That's the back end story. The front end story is what I mentioned, the use cases. But your end data, the end user data, which any bank captures as part of an RE reporting, is where they make a real money. Data monetization is huge. huge discussion. In fact, we should have that as a secondary, discussion in the
Definitely,
future.
definitely,
Yeah, yeah. So
definitely. That's
very
it.
good story. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So my next question is
Okay.
when you have these opportunities, right, and there are vendors who are actually having some sort of service products, and at the same time you guys have requirements.
Yeah.
So now, how do bank evaluate whether it's an in-house activity or we should partner somebody or we can directly buy out from the outside? How
So,
exactly these decisions go on?
there's broadly an unsaid framework, unsaid thought process, for my understanding in most banks, most NBFCs, is
Mhm.
they do about three, four level assessments before they select a partner. Am I audible and visible both, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
Which
yes.
I'm actually at a slightly public place, so there's some background noise.
No problem.
Now, having said this, the first that what certain stakeholders in the banks do, and based on my experience, is they do a capability assessment for the fintech.
Okay, okay.
What the fintech is offering from strictly from a product standpoint, and second is what is the fintech's roadmap in the future. Next 5 साल में ये लोग क्या क्या नया देने वाले हो. Would that mesh with me the bank from an organizational objective standpoint, and second is will that mesh with me from a tech and governance standpoint, and like I mentioned earlier. Second
Mhm.
is this point that I'm mentioning about agency to the core, which basically means कि आपकी how central is the fintech's offerings to the governance objective, the rather organizational objectives, or how peripheral is it? Does it supplement me or does it complement me? Accordingly, the call can be taken to partner with fintech and with what the price model. Third, obviously, I can never quote it enough, is the governance fit. Every fintech has to be 100% governance fit, compliance fit, audit fit before they can move ahead. And fourth, obviously, where it matters is the money, the
Mhm.
total cost of ownership, total cost of acquisition, what kind
Mhm.
of price point benefit me the bank would have, what are my integration and exit standpoints, what are my unit economics, what is my cost of acquisition, what is my cost of distribution, what is my net I, that's NI, that's net income margin, NIM that I would earn, which later I may need to split with the fintech in terms of a revenue sharing. So all these accounts economics come obviously into play. That's more from a CFO, more from a governance standpoint. And the CFO, rather CFO office, in my opinion, or the business office picks up this particular discussion once the governance and the tech fit is broadly done, the assessment is done, because they need to ensure this is working very well with the organization. That's where I
Okay,
feel.
but any I mean, from your past experiences, anywhere you have seen, okay, this was something, pitched, then these are the sequentially things happened, and then you took the call, okay, ये in-house भी किया जा सकता है, yeah.
Correct. So basically, in that case, my personal experience, what I've done so far is through, obviously a team effort is take a call कि whether the particular fintech जो मुझे product offer करी है, solution
Hmm.
that they're offering,
Hmm.
is that something I can build? And yes, then how long, what is the gestation time I can take to build a product?
Okay, okay,
Many times, again, many times, not quoting any of my specific experiences, but
I
many times,
understand.
what I understand is the cost to build
Hmm.
versus the cost to license may not necessarily have the same advantages. It's cheaper to license a product or acquire a product from a fintech versus the cost to build. But the cost to build, while it is slightly higher, the advantages, ROIs, and the GTMs is much more than a licensed product. The licensed product is depending on the AMCs, the core ownership, is depending on your the maintenance aspects. Versus like building a car if you have the capability to build a car at home versus importing a car from overseas. So that's the same kind of funda.
Okay. And so, in just addition to that particular question, I have, so typically now there's, this SaaS company, they have SaaS product, and then and banks definitely have their own, internal policies, internal protocols,
Yeah.
compliances, where they, prefer to have it on-prem. So
Hmm.
how's that, equation happens? So I mean, these product companies, SaaS companies, do they have chance, in any specific areas where, really they can make the game, or it is always on premise? कैसे चलता है?
I mean, talking more from banker standpoint, most banks uh, broadly prefer to have a SaaS or cloud on premise. The reason is very simple. It's because it is more compliant friendly, more regulatory friendly, and more audit friendly. Cloud external to a bank's ecosystem or a bank's premise is more susceptible to your audits, frequent audits. Banks have a tendency for at least twice an audit a day, twice an audit a year,
Hmm.
versus internal audits which keep going on and on, which are more easier on the bank's bandwidth. So having a cloud, having a capability inside the bank system is much more advisable versus external. That's my opinion. But people can have a different opinion. No problem.
सो यार एक क्वेश्चन होता है हमेशा जो आता है फाउंडर्स एंड वेंडर्स की तरफ से कि whenever it is selling into the large banks, the sales cycle is huge. सालों लग जाते हैं एक
Hmm.
प्रोडक्ट पुश करने के लिए. So
जी.
yeah, so in the entire sales cycle, where do you think, I mean, as per your experience, it takes more time, to cross that particular phase? कहाँ पे है and why?
So ideally, in my opinion, there are 3 to 4 sales cycle. One is obviously the ideation of the conception of a product. And when I say
Mm-hmm.
sales cycle, not just sales, but also the entire product delivery also. That's my understanding of the entire cycle. One is your
Okay,
idea.
correct.
Second is your design and development. Third is
Mm-hmm.
your product construct or the deployment. And fourth is the
Mm-hmm.
post production or the post go live phase.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Correct.
the smallest is, or rather the most easiest one of the things is the post go live, which is, I won't say easiest, but one of the most seamless, because you already done the learnings, you already got the assessment done, you already have the wherewithal to launch a product. The biggest one is the ideation, in my opinion. This is my individual opinion only. Because ideating a product or ideating a particular concept from paper to the manufacturing line is a huge thing. It involves not just
Okay.
frequent reworks, frequent reassessments, but possibly there are examples or areas where there could be complete rehash of a product. तो आपने एक प्रोडक्ट ऑलमोस्ट डिलीवरी तक बना लिया, तो आपने ऑलमोस्ट
Mm-hmm.
डेवलपमेंट तक बना लिया, आपको
Mm-hmm.
लगता है कि ये नहीं चलेगा, so you have to go back on a drawing board to re-engineer that, to assess it, to kind of re-architect it. That
Mm-hmm.
involves entire life cycle rebirth. Normally जो ideation conception जो आपका stage होता है,
Mm-hmm.
that's nothing less than at least 2 to 4 months minimum. So that leads to a lot of back and forth. So in my opinion, this is the first stage which has to be very, very clear, very correct, so that the other stages can be very easy on the
Smooth. Mm.
very easy and very smooth on the back. I'm talking only from bank standpoint, not from a fintech standpoint.
I understand. And what about the stakeholder mapping part of it? So there's a business owner, right? I mean, who takes
Yeah,
the initiative, and
yeah,
then there are technical folks, then compliance folks, obviously, and then
yes,
it comes to the financial, as you mentioned. When it's a bigger
uh,
deal, then obviously CFO in the picture, and finally the procurement side of it. So
correct.
who plays the villain role? What do you think? I mean,
The main role is actually by everyone. I will not say who's less or who's more. The reason for my answer is everyone plays their own unique, check mark on the game. Whether it is the product guy or the product head, कि मुझे
uh-huh,
क्या चाहिए? He defines the product, he or she.
uh-huh,
The business guy defines why we need the product from an ROI, from a GTM standpoint. What is the market trends? What is the market demand? The CFO is, or the finance office is the viability of the product. If we make the product, if we design the product, if we acquire the product, what is the cost to benefit analysis? So the what part of the discussion. And the fourth is the IT or delivery part, which is how to make the product. Once all these 3, 4 questions are clear, these 3, 4 stakeholders are on board, then it's a zero sum game. Everything is good to go there.
but most of the times what I've seen is vendors or service providers are very, I would say easygoing with the business guy because that's where the actual conversation has initiated. But
This
as we pass that particular gate, then actually the things start unraveling. अरे यार
correct.
ये नहीं है, कैसे होगा, रुका हुआ है, क्या होगा?
मैं तो business वाला नहीं हूँ, as in I'm not a pure sales guy, so I can't
Uh-huh.
answer that question. But what I can say is that the business has to be very clear in what the market is about. Market में क्या चल रहा है आपका, बाजार में क्या बिकता है, और उसको अभी का नहीं, अगले 5 साल तक का व्यू होना चाहिए. 5 साल
correct.
10 साल। But banks, NBFCs, wealth techs, आपको पता ही है कि भाई they are a long term game। तो एक 5 साल से कम देखते ही नहीं कुछ भी प्रोडक्ट बनाने के लिए। जब तक आप ऐसा व्यू दोगे नहीं, यू एज इन द बिजनेस है और तो ग्रुप है और एनी काइंड ऑफ है, you cannot, fully ascertain as a fintech what you will be able to sell to the bank or the NBFC। आपको लॉन्ग टर्म प्रोडक्ट बनाना ही पड़ेगा और प्रोडक्ट ऐसा होना चाहिए कि there are two broad concepts or two to three broad concepts। One is
Mm-hmm.
the product should be multi appeal, मतलब आप just not for your specific bank or specific type of bank, but कल उठ
Mm-hmm.
के आपको NBFC में या वेलटेक में भी यही प्रोडक्ट बेचना पड़े तो with minimal customization I can sell it as a fintech
Okay.
with
Mm-hmm.
minimal cost to production।
Valid
Second,
point. Yes.
governance और आपका तो factor है ही, but also from a cross pollination standpoint, if I have, let's say, a well product, if I need a fintech owner,
Mm-hmm.
I have well tech product talking about specific to your experience। So well tech product, मेरा जो well tech product है, if the bank has another payments product that they want to cross-sell this product with, for example, to their CASA customers or to their salaried customers, then this should mesh very well from a product proposition standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, from a obviously a cost to economic standpoint। तो वो उनको एक थोड़ा futuristic view देके बनाना पड़ेगा। It's not just in the me game, but we are in the B game, B for WE। हम
Understood. But tell me one thing, Abhishek, because I, especially when I come from sales, I have seen that BFSI specifically, uh, they have a very clear mandate or more expectation from the security and trust point of view.
Hmm.
Unless and until that is served,
Yeah,
uh, I don't see, I mean, the deals going forward. And people say it's a
जी,
relationship game. So,
absolutely।
इसके ऊपर आपको, what are your comments on this? It's a relationship game. People say it's a relationship game.
Yeah. So when you say security trust, there are two ways this word can be understood. One is security trust from relationship standpoint, which is very well mentioned from a sales business standpoint. Second is trust from a data security, privacy security, IT security, infrastructure security, which is more from the IT and the infrastructure standpoint. So at both the levels, this product that the fintech is selling to a bank or to NBFC or to WebTech has to be very, very uh,
Hand in, hand in hand.
strongly manufactured, yeah, on the hand, and very strongly manufactured। You can have a very good relationship with the business head कि भाई,
Mhm,
Mr. So and so, ये प्रोडक्ट है आप ले लीजिए अच्छा लगेगा बहुत।
mhm,
But if it's not, like I mentioned, the data security compliant with certain, let's say SOC type 2 or ISO 27001, certain, nomenclatures that the bank, the regulators expect for fintechs to have, then it becomes very difficult to have a discussion with regulators, especially from the governance teams in the bank, for data, for audit, for compliance। And yeah, I keep emphasizing on this thing because data localization, data privacy is a huge thing in today's game। थोड़ा भी छोटा भी इशू आता है कि कस्टमर का डेटा भगवान ना करे लीक हो गया या कहीं पे कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो गया, then it's a major social media issues, obviously you see various cases। Also from a financial standpoint, impacts the bank, the custodian। तो ये एंगल रखना बहुत जरूरी है।
okay. So last couple of questions now.
जी,
So first is basically, let's say next 5 years,
हाँ जी।
uh, where do you see the APIs are playing the role in future digital banking?
API great question। मेरी तो मैं देखिए दाल रोटी हमारे लिए। So so basically there are 3 4 areas where APIs would be a better invested to focus on banks। One is from a API Rails perspective. Banks should, or NBFC should, or custodians should invest more in the API Rails, API infrastructure investment, make it more robust, make it more customizable, make it more modular, and most important, make it more interoperable. Because the more you make it more interoperable, the lesser your cost of economics is there. Second is make it more in APIs very multi-capable. API, one API cannot just do one function these days, but they should be doing more. Not just do KYC, check, also do the underwriting part together along with fraud detection, for example, or also for the matter, reconciliation. I'm giving some composable evidences or composable examples because the efforts and cost to manufacture one API, that one API you can blend in so many of these microservices कि आपको instead of incorporating in your larger journeys, let's say 15, 20, 25 APIs, you can do with 2 to 3 APIs. 2-3 API आपको सब काम चल जाएगा आपका. You
Correct.
get the use case delivered, which obviously leads to like cost of efforts ka, economics, cost of investment ka, cost of integration ka, cost of delivery ka, your UAT, SIT timeouts, all those things. So everything gets economized. So that is what I larger term is API economization. And most importantly, or very important as equal to the others, is the API experiences. The
Okay.
experience, CX, customer experience that the API delivers. It's very important today's day and age, especially for Gen X, Gen A's and Gen Alpha, Gen millennials और boys. पहले क्या था कि अगर आपका युवा एक्सपीरियंस थोड़ा कम भी होता है बड़े और value deliver is good, then folks like us in our generation would चला लेते हैं. अभी क्या अभी
चला
के
गया.
जो है, they want the best experience, those most snazziest UI UX, the most happening, Figmas, वो सब चीज, along with the APIs obviously. आपको UI UX पे भी बहुत ध्यान देना पड़ेगा आज के. आपको मतलब all of us. And that is in fact where there's a lot of cross sell, a lot of hook customer hooks concerned to get more and more business, because it's more of this generation, in my opinion, is this what Gen Alpha, Gen G's, they're very word to mouth generation. एक बंदा बोलेगा, एक सौ का influencer बोलेगा कि भाई use this particular app, मतलब millions of people will start downloading and using it. So एक में आपका काम बिगड़ता भी है, एक में काम भगवान न करे, sorry, एक में काम आपका सुधरता भी है और भगवान न करे एक में काम आपका बिगड़ता भी है. Because of one
Correct.
influencer. And this unfortunately is the name of the game today. I mean, I personally have my own reservations, so influence and things, but that's how we need to roll.
But
Okay.
but then you have brought a very important point here. I mean,
Hmm.
into this UX and UI.
Ji.
But do really, I mean, when you have your own, internal meetings there,
Yeah,
this aspect is seriously discussed.
yeah. Huge. In fact, not just me, but even folks senior to me,
Hmm.
uh, in age and experience wise, they are very, very, very particular about the UX, UI, UX. मैं थोड़ा बहुत शायद ये भी कर लूँ कि भाई 19-20 का मेरा हो जाता है. I'm just saying as a humorous
Yeah, I
example.
understand. I
But the
understand.
seniors in the company, they are very, very particular of. I mean, they want a particular shade of a color on a font. They want that shade only. They want red color ka, agar they wanted, the banner or the header. The red maybe there are variants in that. So they
Hmm.
want a particular code of red. ऐसा वैसा भी नहीं चला देंगे. It's a good thing, eye for detail, eye for perfection, but it comes with its own plus and minuses.
So my question was, already the thought process has gone into, appealing this Gen Z kind of a generation. It is already
Absolutely.
there in the planning.
Absolutely. Now, banks, or not just banks, but I'm saying across the board, across all industries, they are designing products which is more catered towards this segment, because 30-35% of population is in this area, like I mentioned, 18 to 25 age group. This is my idea of a Gen Z, Gen Alpha. उन लोग को जो चाहिए, they'll be driving a lot of these purchases and decisions. So that's how they're designing products. But what I feel is that Gen Zs are more overly dependent on the credit side of things. So
Okay.
हमारे generation के जो लोग हैं, our generation, there's a generational shift in the way financial products are used. Our generation is the folks who grew up in the 80s and 90s are very, very savings oriented. आज
Correct.
की जो generation है, the youngsters, college and school तो नहीं इतना, but college students especially and first time jobbers, they are more reliant on the credit part of the decisions. So anything which will use, a line of credit or a credit card or a BNPL stack versus, saving the money for a rainy day. So that's something I'm kind of worried about.
And one more point, I mean, you just mentioned one aspect, that UX UI. Any other aspect, those, really get into your discussion when it comes to this appealing to this particular generation, Gen Z?
Over and above the CX part.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, well, there's an internal point which is not very relevant to the Gen. I mean, it's relevant to Gen X. It's not immediately they are coming in the eye. It's a data story. The data captured from Gen X purchases, Gen X transactions, or Gen X decisions, or Gen Z's rather, is something the leadership is very, very interested to fathom. What is the
Okay.
behavior trends, market trends? What are the purchase trends? What is the forecast? You know, across the board, leaders would love to see that a view on that. That's where any fintechs which are working in that direction to design futuristic data angles, data stories, fueled on Gen Zs, would have a very good time talking to leaders, striking up very decisive discussion with the leaders also.
Okay. My last question now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Uh, how AI is changing the roadmap?
AI. अभी इतना ही आपने ऐसा सवाल पूछा, it's $1 million question. I cannot escape this
Yeah,
answer.
yeah, definitely.
I should not
Definitely.
also. So, AI का basically क्या है? Talking from a strictly from a banker standpoint, there are
Mhm.
many areas where AI is being experimented, being kind of embedded, kind of being involved into. The first is the underwriting part, where AI is playing AI is starting to play a very good role in terms of decisioning, data siloing, customer segmentation, risk assessment, dynamic limit monitoring for let's say credit product. Yeah, इसका limit ये है, कल वो हो सकता है. This is our decision decision output. That's one. Second is AI plays a very strong role in the whole agentic AI part, which is chatbots, which is your end-to-end workflow management, which is your autonomous agents, which is your AI road mapping. That's some customer services for the customer post production part. The third is your AI in the risk and fraud part, which is again move from a surveillance, move from a risk assessment, move from a customer behavior, move from data reporting, got the early warning systems, late warning systems, post warning systems. All these buckets are there. Then AI plays a very strong role. So just kind of briefing it up the question. The next one is from a personalization standpoint. AI plays a very
Yes.
good role segmenting your customer from a behavior, from a purchase, from a post output standpoint. So you पूरा look
Okay.
very clear standpoint, which helps you the bank or the financial entity to give products which are more vernacular in sense. So अभी आजकल के products है which are very English based, very Western things.
Yes.
But India being a country of diverse languages, we have nothing less than 25, 27 major languages. My opinion is that AI would play a very powerful role in devising or designing financial products which are vernacular based. Something for let's say the West Bengal market or for the North, the Indian market or from Maharashtra, specific to Maharashtra interiors of South.
Correct.
Specific
Correct.
products customized to each language category would be a very strong cross sell. उसका ज़्यादा प्रभाव पड़ेगा ऐसे से
But मुझे इसमें जैसे क्वेश्चन आता है कि when it comes to AI, so it is happening internally, or you are also exploring, services from outside. How it is happening, and how
that's a,
what are the criteria again? I mean,
that's a
because
bank to bank call. I mean, I understand the question. I cannot
hmm,
speak to any bank or any entity, but
hmm.
it's upon the bank, upon the NBFC, upon the financial entity what they want to do. If they have the capability, they will definitely look at the
But
internal.
because my question is because there are local LLM challenges, right?
Yes, yes.
And I think जितना थोड़ा बहुत मैं जानता हूँ, RBI is not yet clear, protocols, guidelines on that कि क्या use करें, क्या use नहीं करें. So in that case, what are the discussions? I mean, how are you evaluating, or how the community is evaluating overall BFSI?
So as for the leadership of discussion are concerned, I'm not privy to all that, but what I can say from my personal perspective,
Hmm.
uh, is the next focus for a lot of banks, a lot of NBFCs. And when I say LLM, it's not just about the language itself per se, but also the underlying layer. It has to be customizable. Jitna, for example, if you devise one or very limited kind of LLMs for servicing needs, the better it is for you to have a very focused process. If you have a whole list of LLMs for each specific app or each specific output, इतना आपको chaos बढ़ जाएगा. This is my opinion. I could be completely wrong about that because I'm not an AI doctorate in AI or anything. One LLM which can be multitask for or multi-purposed is a great way to do a lot of small-scale problem solving. उसमें क्या है कि आपका cost of deployment भी का कम हो जाता है. LLMs are very capital intensive proposition.
Correct. Correct.
Whether you buy it from outside off the shelf, whether it is internally developed, you will involve a huge amount of R&D. R&D not from a manpower only perspective, but also obviously from a cloud, from a core,
Infra.
from a infra perspective. तो आपका काफी experimentation बच जाना चीज है. अगर आप कुछ बना रहे हो, तो make it multi-purpose.
Okay.
Generating the deal, or baking the bread is very expensive for banks.
But just last question. I mean, just
Yeah.
how are we, checking the ROIs? कैसे इसका ROI कैसे करेंगे हम लोग? AI का.
अभी आरोप का सर ये है कि it is basically still a question being still being thought about.
Okay.
What happens for AI ROI? Ideally, क्या होता है, you can either look at a capital angle, which is basically uh, how long will this particular technology serve me, and you can kind of write off that particular cost against a
Hmm.
fixed ROI benchmark, or you can do a unit-based assessment. Okay, like a fixed, like a if this serves for a particular use case, the use case will last only for this much for this particular time period. उतने के लिए मेरा ROI क्या हो सकता है? So my opinion, but this is how companies or AI enthusiasts could look at from a ROI modeling standpoint. Look at the capital way or look at the variable ROI. There could be some third or fourth way, but again, that's all in, like I mentioned, all in discussion, all in being, thought about.
Okay. I think audience is eager to ask you question.
Yeah, yeah. Look forward.
So yeah, we can open that. Maybe Mohammed, do you have any questions?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Piyush. Thanks a lot for wonderful questions, and thanks a lot, Abhishek, for all the insights. It was just, amazing to hear your thoughts on that, right?
Thank you so much for joining.
Um,
Let's have this.
yeah. So I think just a quick background, right? So we are an early stage startup, and
Yeah.
and I have like spent almost like 16 years at Goldman building compliance surveillances, and that's how startup is about, right? Like AI agents for compliance. And right now we are talking to like couple of banks, and wanted to hear couple of your thoughts, right? So the stage that we are in, and a lot of things that you mentioned resonated with us. We have been talking to like the technology team, the compliance business team, and various other teams, right? So every stage feels like winning that particular team over, right? uh, what I wanted to ask about is, are there any other risks that we should be aware of from an enterprise like yours, where you might view a certain startup who might have the right product, who might have the right founders, who might have everything in place, but how much do you weigh, for example, a small vendor risk, which is a natural for any early stage startup, and then how do you address that from your perspective?
So, Mohammed, great question. So I'll just talk from my individual perspective. I cannot be put any bank, any organization. The way I would love to see is, am I audible, right? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
you're audible.
The way I would love to see is, okay, first of all, how data, what are your data security, apparatus in place?
Okay.
Because AI, अभी भी क्या है कि AI is still being, at better good reason, better worse reasons. उसके लिए there are a lot of, apprehensions, lot of, perceptions being built. So the way to kill that perception, negative if that may be, is to have a very strong data security apparatus in place. Before they ask you the question about data security, क्या है आपके AI platform का, you show a very, let's say a data security certificate of sorts, or a assessment study. This is what we've done. This is how robust is our data security layer. And from banks, from an NBC perspective, there is no actually zero risk as far as data leakage is concerned. That mitigates a lot of questions across the board, whether it is risk, compliance, audit, business, finance team, whether it is product team. So उसमें ही आपका एक question से काफी चीज आपका address हो सकता है. Second is like, we're just talking on more from an ROI perspective. So show value to the bank or the particular NBFC or the wealth entity whoever you're talking to. Okay, using my take, what is the ROI? Either you show a cost benefit or you show or a revenue benefit or both. One of the two things.
Right.
That will kind of help you clinch the discussion at least to the next stage. क्या आप अगर आप AI बेच रहे हो, are you doing, for that matter, anything, any product in the world, ये दो तीन चीज में आपको थोड़ा फोकस दिखाना पड़ेगा.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot. I think that resonates with us because that's exactly how we have been looking at like ROI first and then second. So I
और
think
फिर
I think
रिक्वेस्ट ये
thanks
कि
a lot.
बस शो द डेटा सिक्योरिटी पार्ट वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. डेटा
Hmm.
सिक्योरिटी, प्राइवेसी, गवर्नेंस, वो सब आप दिखाइए कि आई एम वेरी वेरी कंप्लायंट टू ऑल दिस थिंग्स. शो टेंजिबल एविडेंसेस, देन ऑब्वियसली शो द ROI पार्ट.
Very helpful. Thanks a lot, Abhishek.
Anup, I guess you have question.
Yeah, thanks Abhishek for giving this opportunity. And
Yeah,
I wanted to ask from Abhishek,
Ranjit.
like Abhishek, we are working on the fraud prevention and the cyber intelligence side from last 2.5 years. And like we have identified more than 66,000 fraudulent apps on the Apple Store and the Google Store.
Okay.
And on the basis of that, like we have trained our data, like the next real-time apps are coming, so we can identify which app is genuine and which app is fraud. And the old solutions, they are basically on the keyword based patterns they are currently running. So there are use of gaps in the fraud prevention side with existing solutions. So I wanted to ask, like, how as a early stage startup, like we have already cracked the POC working with like every trading platform in India, but we wanted to crack this problem on the BFSI sector side. So how we can approach in that area, like at least we can provide the demo.
So आपका you saying fraud prevention is your one of your core strengths. That's what you're saying.
Yes, Abhishek. Fraud
आप बोलिए.
prevention, basic. जैसे से HDFC की हमने लास्ट 1 ईयर में 25 एप्स हमने आइडेंटिफाई करी कि HDFC सिक्योरिटी एंड HDFC बैंक के नाम से फ्रॉड कर रही है. द रियल गैप इज जो एग्जिस्टिंग सॉल्यूशन यूज कर रहे हैं, अगर कोई भी 60 या 90 डेज अगर अवेलेबल रही है एप्पल स्टोर पे, तो दे हैव डन ऑलरेडी स्कैम, और वो नए सॉल्यूशन के साथ 60 डेज के बाद आएंगे. तो हमारा ये कि हम बिल्कुल अर्ली स्टेज में आइडेंटिफाई करें, विद इन 5 to 7 डेज उस ऐप को हम रिमूव करा दें कि वो सर्कुलेट होने से बच जाए. देन सेकंड प्रॉब्लम हमने सोल्व किया है कि सिर्फ एप्स नहीं, अब आज के टाइम पे हम डोमेन्स पे भी करते हैं, मेटा एड्स पे भी करते हैं, हम ब्राउजर एक्सटेंशन पे भी करते हैं, सोशल मीडियाज भी आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं, क्योंकि एक सिंगल सॉल्यूशन हम सेल नहीं कर पा रहे थे. तो जीरोधा, एंडिवन, ग्रो, एंजल वन, इनके साथ हम काम कर रहे हैं. तो वी वांट्स कि बीएफएसआई सेक्टर भी इस पे ट्रस्ट दिखाए, एंड लाइक एटलीस्ट दे कैन डिस्कस.
देखिए, आप बेसिकली आपको if you want someone to show trust in you, in this case BFSI, I'm not again name any banks, any organization or any kind of company, but trust दिखाने के लिए आपको कुछ tangible दिखाना पड़ेगा. Fraud prevention आपने क्या कितने fraud रुके हैं, show some tangible evidence like I mentioned, तो ही आप आगे कुछ बढ़. ठीक है. So आपने जो इंडस्ट्री में आगे काम किया, फॉर एग्जांपल तो ले लीजिए FMCG और इंटरनेट प्लेटफॉर्म्स, तो उसमें आपने क्या क्या फ्रॉड प्रिवेंट किए, क्या क्या फ्रॉड डिटेक्ट किए, वो आपको पूरा उसका एक रिपोर्ट बना के कैन पिच टू द सम ऑफ द इंडस्ट्री. I'm not a security expert. I mean, I'm not a cyber security expert.
Okay.
How I would approach it. Take questions.
Okay, thank you.
अनिप, अनुप, आपका प्रॉब्लम जो इनिशियल क्यूरियोसिटी और इंटरेस्ट जनरेट करना है, दैट्स योर प्रॉब्लम. तो उसमें आपको थोड़ा सा अलग अप्रोच करना पड़ेगा. द नेक्स्ट साहिल, यू कैन आस्क क्वेश्चन.
Hello. Sahil, can you hear me?
Yeah, Sahil, we can hear you. Sahil, are you there? I think he's facing some problem. Viraj, you can ask the question.
Okay. So now I'm audible?
Yeah,
you're audible.
Yeah. So first I would like to thank Mr. Piyush sir for like giving this opportunity, and the insights which are shared by Abhishek sir are like really useful. And I'm currently 20 years old. I'm working with a startup named readiness. And like Abhishek sir told, pardon?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So like Abhishek sir mentioned, like early scale startup, they don't are able to pitch themselves like what component are they targeting in the field. So if you ask me like what product are you guys building, so it is like an evidence layer, which is will be used by the NBFCs, by the marketplaces, and like as Abhishek sir mentioned, like the product should be so robust and scalable, like for 4 to 5 years. It should like deliver the required like we consider that the required components that the bank might be like facing in future, some futuristic issues I can tell, and like those components like we are targeting now, we are not stick to only one use case. Like evidence, as I mentioned, it is one of our use case. We are into audits also. We are like into matching of the payment statements via the SFTP files that we receive from the banks, and from the files which we receive from the PSP, that is the payment service providers like Resort Pay, like Stripe, and so on. So, and question was like sir mentioned about the compliance part that needs to be taken care of. So we are heavily focused on data security because every person that we pitch this idea, the first concern they tell us, like what measures are you taking to like protect my data? Why should we trust you? And like if there is any data breach, so what security concerns would you guys be taking care of? So as per you, sir, if like this particular space that we are targeting fintech, what are the 2 or 3 compliance issues that we must like really stick first, so that when you pitch any person this idea, it should be like, okay, these guys are taking good care of the compliance and the security part, so I can trust them blindly.
So, Sai, I heard your question. Just let me try and address it like this. So when it comes to compliance with data security part,
Yeah.
anything which is immediately impacting customer data, which obviously ties to your as an organization's revenue, organization's profit lines, is the most important for any decision maker. The more robustness, the more capability show in this area. Not just that, but also other areas also. तो इस पे आपको फोकस होना चाहिए कि कस्टमर डेटा आप कितना सिक्योर करते हो या कितना डिटेक्ट करते हो, एनी काइंड ऑफ मिसchief, any kind of inferences.
Yeah.
That is the immediate cross-sell for you as a startup. Sell to any organization, not just banks and NBFCs, banks. But across this entire spectrum, whether FMCG है, telecom media है, internet companies. Customer is, I would say, is the king. It's not an overstatement, it's an understatement. कस्टमर को भगवान बना के आप काम करोगे तो आपका गाड़ी और आना चाहिए. Simple.
Okay. Sir, and my another question was, like as you mentioned, for the banks they prefer a SaaS platform or like a cloud infrastructure. So we are currently in the yeah. So like we are currently in the like cloud infrastructure domain. So how long do you think that we need the integration to like the complete integration time of our platform with the banking, with the NBFCs? So what is
So
the
again,
estimate?
it's a very generic question, different bank to bank or organization to organization. There is visible and invisible cogs playing in this area.
Okay.
I cannot answer the question because it will be wrong on my part.
Yeah.
It can
Okay.
take
No.
one day also, it can take infinity also, right? Unfortunately. So I can't answer the question. It's for the
Okay,
best of
sir.
these. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you,
We
sir.
can move to the
Sorry.
next question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ramesh?
Thank you, Abhishek and Piyush. It's a great insight. We offer regulatory intensive applications, something on KYC, focused on legal entities, and something on transaction monitoring arena, more specifically on alert investigation. As we are aware of the fact, this is a regulatory intensive applications. Getting a buy-in from though you highlighted the different stakeholders in terms of pushing the products, doing a POC, and then scaling it up, and but we are facing an enormous amount of challenges in terms of since it is a regulatory intensive application, getting a buy-in from the regulatory stakeholders has been a huge challenge. So, what could be your thought? And in spite of being addressing on the compliance aspect, security aspect, or even the digital traceability aspect of that, we are facing enormous amount of challenges. Do you have any insights?
So I don't know the details behind your discussion. So I cannot fully answer this point to the my complete satisfaction. But here's what I can say is, while you keep discussing, engaging with the stakeholders in the various fiduciaries, if you have not engaged also with the RBI separately, because RBI also has something called as RBIH, Reserve Bank of India Innovation Hub, where they do a lot of experiments, a lot of discussions on cyber security, data security, blockchain, AI, ML, and that's an open public forum on this thing, platform. So if you can engage with them, you can obviously set the discussion. No need to necessarily advertise all this all the time. That will give you some sort of additional credibility than traditionally what you already have. So as a company, I'm sure you bring a lot of experience, your vast corporate experience. But engaging with an entity like RBI, which is regulatory for everybody, that will give you that heft and that certain edge over other competitors. speak to the stakeholders. In terms of health, right, we are engaging with RBI on this particular use case. It's something that I discuss with. That will give you that discussion focus to engage with banks. And I'm not again quoting any bank, any NBFC. I'm just simply quoting from industry standpoint. So more comfort.
Sure, Abhishek. Sure, Abhishek.
I hope that makes sense.
Definitely. Yes.
Next question, Viraj.
Yeah, hello guys. Good morning. So I'm 20 as well, just like Sahil. I basically built this kind of very compliant application that works for fraud detection. All right. So RBI officialized this mandate recently. I read about it in April 2026. It's come into effect that if there's a fraud via your bank, each bank is liable for up to 50,000 rupees per customer in terms of a fraud transaction. Okay. So this this application, it is one webhook. It is completely on premises. It runs on CPU, so no API calls, no cloud infrastructure or anything. And whenever some transaction over a particular threshold, say 50,000 rupees happens, then a call goes to that person. It asks them, did you approve this transaction? And we support more than 50 native Indian languages, so Indic languages, based on a custom CNN and custom LLM, custom VLM, different types of models. Okay. And it just asks, did you do this or did you not do that? And based on what the customer says, yes or no, using biometrics and voice. So there are different, like fingerprint hota hai, eyes ko hum log check karte hain, वैसे voice biometrics bhi होता है. उसके हिसाब से we can verify if the person actually did this transaction. So current issue was SIM swaps होते हैं, मतलब OTP आता है आपको, OTP आप डालोगे application में, so transaction is verified. But उसका problem था SIM swaps का. So with voice biometrics, that problem I'm trying to mitigate. Now the issue is I'm really good at building stuff. Okay, I work at IIT Bombay. I've launched rockets to space. I have a Guinness World Record for that. What I'm bad at is actually getting into sales. So I thought this would be a good platform to ask, like, what do I do from here?
So, Viraj, you see, launching rocket into space, thanks to IIT, you need to teach us how to do that.
Yeah.
That's next level genius, man.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm probably talking to a future Elon Musk or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if your question is how to do sales, is that a question? How to do sales? Is that
Yeah, like how do I get into sales in terms of bank? Because whatever I read, it's like 5 years sales cycle, multiple years, all these rude bosses you have to talk to. So I was like, why will I bother? Like,
you're kind of putting me into a spot. Let me just try and level with you. There are all kinds of people everywhere. It's not just banks. Again, I say for the record, not only to any organization, any bank, any entity, but if you're selling something, whatever you're selling, just be yourself. Someone buys that or probably appreciates that, that's a different story, but make it completely crystal clear from a product proposition standpoint. What is the benefit to you? That's the last thing, but the benefit to the organization and the customer of the organization. Like we're selling a product to a wealth company, to its subscribers, its demat holders, investors rather. What is the benefit to those guys? What is the benefit to the wealth company, the web tech, and obviously your own piece of the trade. So being product proposition very clear. What are we selling in today's world? Whether it's a financial app or whether it is a rocket, make it clear what is the benefit to the ecosystem, benefit to the larger population. I think you should be good to go.
okay.
So very good point, Abhishek. And since I come from sales, buddy, I can tell you if you can't learn the sale, then hire somebody or partner with somebody who knows the sales.
Right.
But on a different note, Viraj, there is a rocket. Were these actual rockets or were these like drones or something? What kind
No,
of
real rockets. So basically, there's this foundation called APJ Abdul Kalam International Foundation.
Yes,
It started by his family itself. So I was part of, like, we partnered with that, and there's a startup called Space Zone India. So we launched India's first hybrid model rockets, hybrid basically a type of fuel, right? So these rockets went into space. They carried 100 different sensors, like not directly into space, but touching the layer between like 100 kilometers, right? And with all that sensors, we took all the data, put it into Pratyush, which is one of India's supercomputers. And for like 1.5 year, all of your weather data was coming through satellites that I put into orbit, like that.
Great stuff. This next level stuff. In fact, let's connect offline because I'd love to know more about this.
Definitely, definitely. We
Let's do
could.
that.
I'm from Pune. I'll just send you a LinkedIn connection.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Alright.
Yeah. Next we can take from Srinath.
Yes. So I am just in context. I am actually building something in the early stage. I'm building an early stage AI startup for financial crime compliance. So
Mhm.
I had a question about how, from your side, Abhishek, like just to understand, like from your side, when you are looking at small ventures, like small companies like ours, so would you rather work with the company to, like, say, invest or fund in the company, to like to work with the company and get a win-win situation, or is it more practical for you to wait for the startup to get, for example, more customers or more funding, and then you would rather work, if assuming the product is actually interesting for you? Is there, have you worked on both kind of these examples in the past?
So let me try to answer the second question first. Have I worked on these kind of examples or use cases? No. But because obviously I don't have that immediate, authority mandate to make those decisions in terms of investing in startups. But yes, generally as a fiduciary, a lot of banks, I'm sure, a lot of NBFCs do look at investing in startups. That's a public fact that's known. What, where, how that happens, that's something I cannot answer without data points in my privy. So if you allow me, I can come back to later with this question, this response. It's okay with me. I don't want to give you a half-baked answer and kind of leave it hanging there. That makes sense.
No worries, yeah, that's understandable.
You can connect offline. No issues. Appreciate the question.
Yes, yes, yes. Looking forward to all kinds of ways to work with them, right? That's why the question. Yeah,
Sure.
I'll send you a connection on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.
Rahul.
Hi. Yeah, it's very nice, interesting session to and ensuring. I mean, having all the fintechs or the tech companies in the same forum is very, very rare. So I think uh, like one important point I wanted to highlight and also see whether you have some inputs on that is so when we do the sales or engage and have a product market fit, go and pitch to the right stakeholders, so that works well. I think what we have observed that the in the enterprise world, there are people at different levels and they have different mandates, especially on the AI front, right? So at one of the banks, we came across a situation where the people from the same department, they are liking a product, but parallelly somebody is hired from some other bank which that person is trying to replicate the solution, and they have engaged at an enterprise level with a US based company, right? So they are trying to pitch this product where there is no product market fit, but just because they have bought the enterprise license, they are trying to push this, and that is kind of delaying the process. So we learned this through our experience that we cannot just map it with the stakeholders, but we have to map it at different levels, because what happens within the organization is not just directly related to the people we are associated with or the beneficiary, but at different levels. So any thoughts, any suggestions in terms of how, because you talked about the enterprise level things, right? So what happens within the organization which we should be aware of when we are doing the set?
So, Rahul, I understand the question, but since I don't know the full facts or the full details, it'd be kind of incorrect wrong on my part to make any kind of assumptions or response. But what I understand is, or rather, what I can share is company to company, how it depends. Enterprise level product or license that they purchase is the first preference for most companies. If they kind of use this as not as a license cost, but more from a capital cost perspective, they will definitely use this license, whatever they have, whatever use case they are looking at. First, utilize these licenses because they need to see or show a value for money, CFO office. The licenses don't come cheap. Any enterprise license, especially. So, for example, investing X amount, you need to show, you as a business need to show at least a 1.5 to 2x returns on the license cost, in addition to other costs that they've incurred, before they can move it to some other solution. So, unfortunately, that's the name of the game. But if I were you, I would just keep plugging and looking at various other options.
I think we have done with the questions. Sandeep ji, any more questions?
No, no questions are